Ever wanted to drop an item into your campaign, so cursed, so shiny, and so chaotically petty that it could start a 10-year war? Meet the Apple of Discord, the ultimate divine prank, the golden fruit that launched 1,000 ships and proved that sometimes the smallest loot drop can TPK an entire civilization. Hello all you wonderfully funky world builders, Funky Monkey here, and welcome to today's tale of mythic mess making. This story comes with a side of uninvited guests, divine beauty contests, and god tier levels of drama. So grab your dice, grab a snack, preferably not an apple, and get comfy. It's time to peel back one of the juiciest tales in Greek mythology. Now, we all love TTRPGs. Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Daggerheart, some other game that I've never heard of, or whatever homebrew chaos your party is currently surviving. And if you're looking to build relics, prophecies, or cursed objects, you could hand out another +2 talking sword. But if you want an artifact that starts wars and ruins family gatherings, you could get mythic, and for that we once again turn to the ancient Greeks, the divine party planners, who are always rolling natural 20s on drama checks. Today's tale, the Apple of Discord, a simple fruit that proved that even gods can be petty, beauty can be deadly, and one bad party invite can change the course of history. Let us start by talking about the origins of the Apple of Discord, also known as the wedding of Peleus and Thetis. Before jealousy and judgment came prophecy, and the warning even the king of the gods dare not ignore. According to the lost epic Cypria, the goddess Themis foretold that any son born to the sin nymph Thetis would surpass his father in power. Zeus, ever the enamored king of the gods, really had a thing for Thetis. But he was also always wary of being overthrown like his own sire. And so he quickly abandoned any divine ambitions of getting into Thetis's pants and arranged for Thetis to marry a mortal instead, the valiant Peleus. Thus, a union meant to prevent a cosmic uprising became the stage of one of myth's greatest chain reactions. The wedding of Peleus and Thetis was nothing short of divine spectacle. Picture it, ambrosia flowing, Apollo plucking the lyre, and the muses singing harmonies that could make even the fates pause their spinning. Pindar calls it a celebration of unmatched splendor. Homer himself recalls Hera reminding Apollo of the day he played at that fateful feast, a rare moment when gods and mortals dined as one. But beneath the music and merriment, destiny stirred. The now lost epic Cypria hints that Zeus, ever the strategist, used this wedding to set his long game in motion, the events that would one day lead to the Trojan War. And right on cue, Ares, goddess of strife, patron saint of bad vibes, and the only deity left off the guest list, decided to crash the party. With a single golden apple and a petty inscription, she turned divine pageantry into divine pandemonium. The stage was set, and the quarrel that would doom Troy was about to begin. Ares, the literal goddess of chaos, wasn't exactly anyone's idea of a fun wedding guest. In the Iliad, she's described as the kind of presence that follows armies, not bridal processions, bloodthirsty, loud, and utterly unrelenting. So when invitations went out for the grand wedding of Peleus and Thetis, she was the only name carefully left off the list. According to Apollodorus, Thetis and the ever-sensible Chiron helped plan the guest list and wisely decided not to tempt fate by including the goddess of strife. Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite, even Zeus himself, were all welcomed. But Ares? Not a chance. Unfortunately, leaving strife uninvited is a bit like ignoring a red flag with divine consequences. Feeling slighted and furious at the insult, Ares vowed to leave her mark on the celebration. And in true mythic fashion, her revenge didn't come as thunder or fire. It came in the form of one shiny golden apple. If you're the goddess of strife and someone forgets to invite you to a divine wedding, you don't just crash the party. You make sure everyone remembers you were there. In his work, The Rape of Helen, the poet Coluthus paints Eris in peak petty form, pacing furiously outside the banquet hall, overcome by the pangs of angry jealousy. At first, she considers something dramatic, perhaps rousing the ancient titans, maybe shaking Olympus itself. Nothing too exaggerated. But then, like a good DM knows, inspiration strikes. Far to the west lie the golden apples of the Hesperides, those glowing fruits of immortality guarded by nymphs. It was perfect. Eris slips into the garden, plucks one glittering apple and inscribes 3 fateful words on it. To the fairest. Then, with a kind of grin only chaos can wear, she tosses it into the middle of the feast. The reaction is instant. Gasps, glares. 3 goddesses, Hera, Athena and Aphrodite, lock eyes across the golden table. The music stops, the laughter dies, and in that moment, with one casual throw, Eris plants the primal seed of turmoil. The shiny little object that will one day burn down Troy. The little inscription turned an ordinary piece of fruit into a divine hand grenade. As the Cypria tells it, the moment Eris tossed it into the wedding feast, 3 goddesses launched for it. Hera, queen of the heavens, Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, and Aphrodite, embodiment of beauty and desire. Each believed herself the rightful owner of this shiny apple, and none were the type to share. Apollodorus keeps it brief. Eris hurled the apple in honor of their beauty. Pseudo-Hyginus adds that she didn't even bother to enter the hall, she simply flung the apple through the door and shouted that the fairest should claim it. It worked perfectly. In an instant, the golden apple stopped being a party favor and became a declaration of war. Not the loud, spear-clashing kind, at least not yet, but the quiet, razor-smiled sort born from jealousy and pride. A single word, Calliste, the fairest, was all it took to turn celebration into rivalry and set the gods on a collision course with history. Zeus, ever the master of dodging responsibility, wanted nothing to do with this divine beauty pageant. Choosing between Hera, Athena and Aphrodites? That wasn't judgment, it was suicide. So in classic Zeus fashion, he delegated. According to Apollodorus, the king of the gods ordered Hermes to escort the 3 goddesses to a mortal who could render judgment. Paris, also known as Alexandros, a Trojan shepherd prince, famed for his fairness and apparently his good looks. Hyginus adds that Zeus specifically instructed Hermes to take the trio to Mount Ida, where Paris tended his flock, and let him decide who was truly the fairest. If you didn't get the name drop, Paris is the young Trojan prince that would later have a tremendous part to play in the Trojan War. Now, back to our story. In some versions, Hermes even carried the apple itself. In others, he just guided the 3 contestants, perhaps wisely avoiding direct involvement in whatever came next. Either way, the world's first beauty contest was about to begin, and its judge had no idea that his decision would burn 1,000 ships. When Hermes brought the 3 goddesses before Paris, the poor shepherd probably wished he'd stayed home that day. Standing on Mount Ida with a golden apple in hand, he faced the most dangerous question in the cosmos. Who's the fairest? There was no right answer, only varying degrees of divine wrath. Sensing his hesitation, each goddess tried to sweeten the deal. Hera, queen of the gods, offered him power, rulership over all mankind, endless wealth, and dominion over every kingdom. A sweet deal. Athena, ever the strategist, offered wisdom and glory, victory in battle, unmatched skill, and a mind sharper than any blade. Again, a very sweet deal. Aphrodite, smiling knowingly, offered love, specifically the love of Helen of Sparta, said to be the most beautiful mortal woman alive. Paris, being young, mortal, and thoroughly human, chose, drumbeat, love. He handed the golden apple to Aphrodite, crowning her the fairest of all. It was a decision that won him Aphrodite's favor and the undying hatred of Hera and Athena. Soon after, Aphrodite led Paris to claim his reward, Helen, whose abduction from her husband, King Menelaus of Sparta, would ignite the Trojan War. A single golden apple had just toppled the balance of the gods, proving that in Greek mythology, flattery kills, and so does flirting with a married Spartan. And just like that, one shiny piece of fruit rewrote the fate of the world. What began as divine pettiness at the wedding turned into a war that would burn a city to the ground. Insulted by Paris' decision, Hera and Athena swore vengeance, not on him alone, but on all of Troy. When the Trojan War finally erupted, they threw their divine weight behind the Greek armies, guiding spears and stirring storms. Aphrodite, meanwhile, stood firm with her golden boy Paris and his doomed city, shielding him and Helen whenever arrows flew. Thus, a beauty pageant became a battlefield. What started as a squabble over an apple spiraled into the defining war of myth, a 10-year saga that pitted gods against gods, lovers against nations, and mortals against destiny itself. According to some tellings, Zeus had allowed it all to happen deliberately. Apparently, humanity had grown arrogant and overpopulated, so the king of the gods, ever pragmatic, saw in this divine quarrel a convenient reset button. In short, Ares threw the apple and Zeus let the world burn. Leave it to the later scholars to try turning divine drama into metaphor. The writer Ptolemy Hephaestion, as quoted by later mythographers, took the myth of the golden apple and gave it a grounded, almost academic twist. In his telling, there was no enchanted fruit at all. Instead, the whole affair supposedly began with a dispute over a stunning young man named Melos, whose name, fittingly, means apple in Greek. The goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite each desired this stunning young man to serve as their priest, and it fell to Paris to decide who would win his devotion. When he chose Aphrodite, the story tells, the poetic fable of the apple was born. It's a neat bit of mythic rebranding, turning a divine food fight into a tale of priestly politics and allegory. Hephaestion's version strips away the magic but keeps the rivalry, showing how even in rationalized retellings, the tension between beauty, power, and desire remains at the heart of the story. The golden apples pop up all over Greek mythology, and they're rarely just fruit. They're a narrative hand grenade. The best known batch, of course, belongs to the Hesperides, the nymphs who guarded Hera's orchard at the edge of the world. These were the very apples Heracles had to steal in the 11th labor, shimmering symbols of immortality and glory. By the way, I do have a video on Heracles if you want to check it out. Apples also make a more romantic cameo in the tales of Atalanta and Melanion. During their fateful foot race, Melanion tosses 3 golden apples, gifted by Aphrodite, to distract the fleet-footed huntress. She slows to admire them, love and curiosity outpacing discipline, and thus loses the race but wins a husband. Whether they're stolen, traded, or thrown across a divine banquet, apples in Greek myth always tempt fate. They represent beauty, desire, and the dangerous charm of just one little thing that changes everything. A symbol every dungeon master or storyteller or game master can use when they want a single glittering object to append an entire world. The Apple of Discord isn't just a shiny prop. It's a symbol of how the smallest spark of pride or envy can ignite catastrophe. Its simple inscription, "To the fairest," turned divine beauty into a battlefield, exposing the vanity and insecurity of even the gods themselves. What should have been a moment of celebration, a wedding blessed by Olympus, became the birthplace of rivalry, betrayal, and ultimately war. On a mythic scale, the apple represents the power of pettiness, a single spiteful act that topples kingdoms. But it also embodies the deeper idea that the gods often use discord intentionally. Zeus's orchestration through Tethys and Eris hints that chaos isn't always random. It's sometimes divine strategy. The fall of Troy, the reshaping of mortal history, all trace back to one golden fruit rolling across a banquet table. In world-building terms, the Apple of Discord is a timeless storytelling tool, a reminder that wars don't always start with armies, they start with egos. In a tabletop campaign, few relics can cause as much delightful chaos as a glittering apple with bad intentions. Picture it. A golden fruit engraved with "to the worthiest," unveiled at a royal feast or divine council. Instantly every noble, hero or demigod in the room wants it, for honor of course, and totally not vanity. The fun lies not in the apple's power, but in its symbolism. It's the perfect MacGuffin of envy, a catalyst for rivalries, alliances, betrayals, or even wars. Maybe the artifact's inscription changes depending on who reads it. Maybe it was planted by a trickster god or a bored DM to test the party's unity. Like Eris's original prank, the Apple of Discord can remind your players that sometimes the greatest danger isn't in what the relic does, but what it makes people do. Going back to the myth for inspiration, Paris's infamous choice wasn't just about beauty, it was a crash course in mortal failure. Faced with three irresistible offers, power, wisdom and love, he chose desire over duty, and the world burned for it. In your TTRPG, you can channel this exact tension to challenge your players' principles. Imagine adventurers tasked with judging a divine or political contest. One faction offers dominion and wealth, another promises unmatched knowledge and skill, and the third offers love, fame and redemption. There is no right choice, only consequences. Their decision could shift alliances, spark wars, or even reshape divine hierarchies. The myth of Paris reminds us that temptation doesn't always come from villains. Sometimes it comes gift wrapped in gold, whispered by gods who already know exactly what you'll choose. And this could even be a one shot that could ignite your whole campaign. Have your players shape the world from the get-go. It is also a cautionary tale. At its heart, the Apple of Discord is a story about how tiny sparks can start world-ending fires. Pride, envy, and vanity, traits every adventurer has flirted with, can unravel entire kingdoms. Let your players learn that lesson firsthand. A careless argument, a boast at a royal banquet, or a single act of greed could spiral into divine retribution or political chaos. But those who show humility and wisdom, who refuse to take the bait, can break the cycle of strife entirely. It's a mythic reminder that in storytelling and in games alike, not every battle is won by the sword. Sometimes it's won by walking away from the apple. And with that, if this spiral into divine drama, shiny chaos and one very bad wedding favor gave you story fuel or cursed item inspiration, hit that subscribe button, drop a like and ring that bell like Hera ringing up Zeus's complaint department. Got a favorite mythic artifact or legendary feud you'd like me to unpack next? Toss it in the comments below or just stop by and say hi, I always love hearing from you. Thank you for the gift of your time. Until next time, stay curious, stay funky, never stop world building worlds, and remember, even in myth, it's not always the dragon you have to fear, sometimes it's just one really shiny apple. Have yourselves a delightfully discordant, funky day. Cheers.